lovely people. Good morning, Mr. Head Gardener.
Good morning. Good morning. Sorry I'm late. There is a reason, which is that I completely forgot. I'm sorry about that. I may not be as well prepared today as I should be, but I'm going to do my best.
He puts himself down, but I know full well that Peter is full of all the knowledge and all the information, so we are in for a little treat this morning. So thank you very much for sticking around and waiting for us to come live. We've got lots of things to talk to you about in the potting shed. We were also asking for your questions yesterday, and we have had some already. I've been looking on the iPad. I'm in control of the tech now, you know. I'm in control of tech. So I've got the YouTube chat. I've also got access to the emails. Stuart over in his little control shed over there is looking at the Facebook chat as well. So if you've got any questions, email us ygtv@yougarden.com. Put it into the chat on Facebook and put it into the chat on YouTube. First question though, is summer here?
Well, I mean, seasonally, summer is here. And actually this week, I looked at my weather forecast, the sort of 10-day weather forecast that Apple have on the iPhone, and there's like days of about 21, 22, 23 degrees and no rain.
Full sun symbols
and
as
no
well.
rain.
Yeah.
So as far as I'm concerned, I think summer is officially here, and I'm really pleased. I'm just so pleased that we're looking like now. In terms of what we should be doing in the garden, the things I've been doing. First of all, a little while ago, I put loads of bark down all over my borders, in between the plants, and it looks cosmetically amazing. I love that. I love the look of it. It keeps the weeds down, but most importantly, it keeps the water in. So watering is the big thing. As we now get into warmer weather, faster growth, this is the time when plants are going to consume much more water perhaps than normal. Mm-hmm. So mulching in whatever product you use, it could be bark, it could be strolch, it could be any number of different things, but that will really help. The other thing, feeding. Absolutely crucial. So many plants, things like the oleander that we've got here, NPK. On the back of every fertiliser packet, NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. Shoots, roots, fruits. If you want flowers and fruits, the K, the third of those letters, the K, that represents potassium, that gives you flowers and fruits. If you want lush, green, healthy growth, we don't really need it much this year because it's been so wet and everything is growing so well, no problems, but the N would be higher. So if you're growing cabbages, high N, low P and K. If you want tomatoes and flowering plants, high K, mid-range P and K, N and P, sorry. So feeding so essential at this point in the year. Really do get that food in there, and for pretty much the rest of the summer, right the way through till September, because that will initiate more flowers, that will initiate more fruit, that will keep the growth lovely and strong and even. The third thing and the final thing, I started feeding my lawn in around about March, and I do it 3 times a year. I do it in March, around about now, and then I do it again in September. And I use a feed, weed and moss killer because it's basically doing everything I need done. So it's going to feed the grass, it's going to kill any weeds, any things that shouldn't be there, and it will get rid of the moss. So feed, weed and keed. I would do that now and then think about doing it again in September. So now you've got great borders, you've got loads of flowers, and you've got a lovely, lush lawn.
Amazing, and this is why we love it when Peter comes to join us in the potting shed, because we get all of these wonderful Head Gardener top tips. Now, we have actually got as a free gift this week.
Oh!
Our free gift this week.
Now, I didn't know this. When I was just ranting on about the feed situation, I knew nothing about that. Yeah.
Well, we've actually got the Ultimate Rose Bloom Booster. This is your specific rose feed. But if we haven't got roses, we can use it on everything else as well, can't
Anything that flowers, absolutely. So
we've
developed that, and I personally was very involved in how we developed that. So we sell lots of roses. Loads of you guys will have bought roses. We sell, I mean, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of roses a year as bare root and as potted. That particular food is very special. It's got the N, it's got the P, and it's got the K. So nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. If you also look on the back becks, your eyes are better than mine. I'm very old now, I'm very old. But you'll see there's a whole list of nutrients. So things like boron, copper, molybdenum, all sorts of different unpronounceable minerals that should be in the soil, but might not be. But what that will do is it will replenish them. It's also got humic acid, which is one of those muck and magic kind of things. It's a plant stimulant. It's a bit like your, if you take a daily vitamin and so on, it's a bit like that. But the final thing that's got in there, which is a totally unique situation, is it's got mycorrhizal fungi. Okay, so if you've ever been into a forest and you start rummaging around, I mean, I'm not suggesting you should go into forests and start rummaging around, but what you do on a Thursday evening at 8 o'clock is entirely up to you. If you want to, and you do, and particularly where you've got fallen leaf mould, if you pull back that, you'll see these white strands of fungus. And some people are a bit, oh my goodness, you know, stay away from that, it's got to be bad. No, not at all. That is mycorrhizal fungus. And plants, many plants have a preferred version of that. And it's a very special thing. So what mycorrhizal fungus does is it creates a symbiotic relationship with the plant and the environment. So it allows the plants that have got that active within its sort of root zone to have better nutrient uptake, better water uptake, better health. So when you go back to that fertiliser, and I know it's free for everybody today, there are bigger packs available, but you literally have got everything you could need for your roses or any other shrubby plant.
This is incredible, though, because it is a free gift. So
Yeah.
the way that you get your free gift is that you use our special magic key code. It's on the screen right now, YGTV2524. It's actually only one of the free gifts. Did you know there's another one?
It's a good job I arrived when I did.
Actually, we discovered sort of halfway through the show yesterday that there is another free gift included this week. We don't often do 2 free gifts, but you have got 2 free gifts this week.
Can't believe it.
It's going to be a special mystery bag of bulbs that appears with your order as well. So every order you place, as long as you use the code YGTV2524, 2 free gifts, one of which is your Rose Bloom Booster and the other is that magic free gift. You're also going to get £40, you're also going to get free postage on orders over £40 if you use that code as well. So loads of reasons to shop with us here at YGTV. Make sure you get your questions in. Email us while Peter is with us, ygtv@yougarden.com. We do have, let me put these down, we do have a question from Alison. Is it on email, Stu? Bear with me, bear with me. Alison, head gardener question. Oh, it's a product request.
Oh, hello.
Do you remember the Prisma planters?
Oh, yes, Prisma planters,
Alison is
yeah.
asking, please, and they were really popular. We did a deal on the green ones.
Yeah.
Alison's asking, please, can we have the Prisma planters in a white colour?
Ooh.
Ooh.
In white.
Hot off the press.
Oh, there we are.
That's
Now
the
I
Prisma
do
planter
like.
in green.
Yeah, okay.
I've got loads of these, Peter.
Have you?
So I've got my hostas planted in these, and they look beautiful.
Well, the colour with hostas would look great.
So good. Honestly.
Yeah.
But Alison's asking if we can have some white ones.
Well, Alison, I don't know is the honest answer, but we'll look into it for sure.
Well, Peter's in control of getting all the pots and things. I know you selected a lot. Of
Well,
pots,
every year what we do is we get all of our pots out and we line them all up. So we look at this year's pots, and then we look and we say, do we like those or do we not like them? And actually, do you like them or not like them? And we know that because if we've got absolutely none left, we know you really like them. If we've got loads left, we know you didn't like them very much. Anyway, the Prisma planter has been in the range for several years, and it's been in the range for several years because it is a lovely thing. It's got this beautiful pattern, as you can see. It's got this almost 3-dimensional feel to it, but it's also been lime washed, and that's what I love about it. So, and as that ages outside, it will sort of develop almost a secondary patina all over it, so the sort of natural kind of change and so on. But you know, as always, beautiful drainage, so you don't have to worry about the drainage. You've got the drainage channels there, those grooves, so even if that pot were to sit on a flat surface, off you go. But yeah, our pots are a great value. They're super quality. I don't know if it's available in white, Alison, but we're going to look into it and we will do our best for you.
All right, we've got another question for you. This is from Grimmy, one of our regulars.
Grimmy, hello Grimmy.
On a regular basis. Grimmy, I've got some pictures as well. The question is for the head gardener. My grapevine has really taken off this year with lots of grapes forming. My question is, how do I look after it to maximise the grape harvest and protect from insects?
Okay, so insects, quite tricky. Depends what the insect is. So if it's things like, if it's aphids, then you can use some non-pesticide solutions, so soft soap will actually get rid of them, but it's it won't get rid of all generations of them, but it will get rid of the active ones, the big ones. It will wash those off, it's a chemical-free solution. The other thing is, if it's aphids and you want to use a totally natural thing, encourage ladybirds into your garden. So you can buy ladybird houses. I'm not sure if we still sell them. We certainly used to, and you can build up the population of ladybirds in your garden because they eat aphids. The other thing, and it's a much maligned part of the animal kingdom or the insect kingdom, is wasps. Now, normally people despise wasps because you're sat there with a pint of wife beater on a sunny afternoon in the pub garden, and there are wasps everywhere trying to get your beer before you do, or your daughter or son's J2O or grandchild's J2O, which is the drink of choice if you're a wasp. Now, wasps at this point in the year are a gardener's massive friend because they actually also feast on aphids. So if you do see wasps, that's a good thing because they will be dealing with it naturally. So when I see aphids and things like that first crop up, I generally leave them alone. I don't do anything to dissuade them from being there. I certainly don't put up those traps where they go in and drown and so on. I leave them because actually at this point in the year they're doing a good piece of work. What happens with wasps in particular, they get a bit useless towards the end of the year because the population of the bad guys that you don't want, like aphids, they're going. The wasps then get a bit sort of grumpy and angry at times, so that's the time when you might want to put one of those out. Now, earwigs, black plastic bag full of straw, suspend that somewhere near your grapevine, and earwigs, if that's your problem, will go in there. Same with many of the fruits that you see. If you've got earwigs as a problem, black plastic bag with an opening in it, but with straw in it, and they just go in there, and they'll just go there instead of be on your plants.
Nice.
Now, in terms of pruning with grapes, so what you'll find with your grapes is you've got the main woody stems, and then you've got lateral growth coming out from all over it. And at this point in the year, they get to 2 metres, 3 metres, 4 metres long. They're really long, but you'll find the grapes are quite close to the main trunk. So what I do with my grapevine, and I'm pretty sure this is what grape growers across the world do, when you look at those lateral growths, your bunch of grapes will have formed probably within 6 to 8 inches of the main stem. If you go 2 branches, yeah, they're lovely, aren't they? That's a good sized bunch. They'll naturally thin themselves out once they actually get bigger, because those grapes, if they all grew to be full size, would be a massive bunch. But literally, when you get past that bunch on that lateral, go 2 more pairs of leaves past that, then trim off the rest of it. You're probably trimming off like 1 metre or 2 metres of growth, but all of the goodness then will go back into the grapes and not carry on extending that growth, because what you really want is all of the concentration to go into the growth of the grapes. The other thing, by trimming off all of that excess foliage at this point in the year, that also has a massive benefit. And if you've grown tomatoes, it's the same thing. So at this point in the year, as your bunches of tomatoes form, you remove quite a few of the leaves and the branches lower down. That's because we want air and sunshine to get to the tomatoes. It's no different with your grapes. So by moving that excess foliage and getting rid of it, you're allowing more airflow and, oh, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Isn't that looking pretty?
Did you do something then? Did you move that?
I'm in control.
Are you
so
really?
I get to zoom in.
Stuart, when did this happen? Goodness me. Goodness me.
I'm in control.
First she's got the iPad, now she's in control. Where is this going to end?
World domination!
No, that's great. So that is naturally predisposed to get plenty of air and light because it's up over a frame. But as I say, when you trim it, and when you first trim the foliage back, it looks a bit brutal. But I can assure you, no problem at all. It will be absolutely as it should be. Yeah,
very good. I've been doing exactly that with my tomatoes. You'll be pleased to hear. I have been trimming off the lower leaves so that all that goodness goes into the tomatoes. I don't have a grapevine, but I've been doing it with the tomatoes. I've got a little top tip for you. If you want to invite ladybirds into your garden, what I've discovered since planting the Euphorbia Miner's Merlot, my word, I couldn't believe how many ladybirds are just crawling around on the Euphorbia. They absolutely adore it. So if you want to invite some ladybirds into your garden, maybe think about getting hold of some Euphorbia.
I think
certainly brought them in for me.
Euphorbia Miner's Merlot, I reckon I've got 6 planted in my garden, different places, because they sit there looking magnificent when they're in leaf. mine have flowered and have been looking magnificent earlier this year. I'm actually going to give it a little bit of a tidy up and trim back some of those flowers, just because now I've got other things that are in the beds and borders where they're planted coming to the fore. I would say, of all of the plants that we've introduced over the last 2 or 3 years, I genuinely, honestly say this, Miner's Merlot, Euphorbia Miner's Merlot, is one of the very best.
Yeah.
It's hardy, it's got an incredible colour palette. It is absolutely beautiful. What? That's not Miner's Merlot?
No, that's not Miner's Merlot.
That's Miner's Merlot.
My Miner's Merlot.
But look at that!
Peter.
Look at that almost chocolate-coloured foliage.
It's beautiful.
Look at the way that those flowers just contrast so beautifully with it. I mean, it is a gorgeous plant, and it's in my experience, it's absolutely maintenance, trouble-free, pest-free. It is just an incredible plant. Just an incredible plant.
So this was that one was slightly earlier on in the season, and if you look closely, look, ladybirds. There's ladybirds. There were so many of them, and then later on I did another video with all those beautiful flowers. So it's a top tip from me. I mean, the regulars know when we brought that Miner's Merlot, we were waxing lyrical about how beautiful it is. So yeah, it's a top tip from us. All right, we'll come back to some more questions for you in a little while. Let's talk about some actual plants, shall we? Let's talk about the beautiful oleanders. These are gorgeous plants. They're evergreen. They flower for ages, but what I really want to talk to you about is the relationship that we've got with this amazing Sicily grower, because you are so proud of that relationship, aren't you?
Well, exactly. So we have a stunning range of Mediterranean plants, even though I say so myself. They are absolutely beautiful, and oleander for me is just one of the absolute best, because as a plant, it's evergreen, so it's going to look great all year. Hardy to around about -5. So in a really cold winter, this is going to need some protection. But mostly, and certainly in the southern half of the UK, these are pretty much winter hardy all of the time. If you live in a very exposed site, or we have a particularly cold winter, get your fleece out, give them a bit of protection. Or if they're in pots, just move them indoors, put them in the greenhouse, put them in, put them somewhere where they get some shelter. So they're evergreen. They flower in the summer, every summer. And even in the UK, I mean, we're used to seeing oleanders looking beautiful when we're on holiday, but in the UK, these will flower reliably in the UK. And you've got fragrance. So they're evergreen, they're low maintenance, they're winter hardy to -5, they flower and they're fragrant. So these are absolutely magnificent. So what we've managed to do over probably the last, I'm going to say 10 years, because we have been selling oleanders at least that long. Certainly in my previous life, longer than that. But what we've done, and that I think is video of our nursery, isn't it, right now?
Yeah, just last week.
So what we've got is premium, high plant quality production, where we work with Europe's best grower, who's based in Sicily. We have these grown specifically for us. We also have standards. All of the standards are pretty much gone now. So for those of you that got them, well done. They'll be looking amazing, I reckon, right now. They should be an absolutely beautiful, perfect flower. But these are the ones that we've got at this point. And we always sell bushes at this point, because actually June, July and August, that's when you really want to give your garden a bit of a makeover. So I think if you want to give your garden a Mediterranean makeover, this is the perfect plant. Now, the one thing, no plant of an oleander is edible, so never eat it, don't use it in cooking at all. So that's just important to bear that in mind. But these are magnificent things. I mean, all of those attributes, it's like, I always think about a tick box when you think about plants. Look at that root system.
I know.
That is what I would describe as rooty, isn't it?
It's my rooty beauty.
Tick lists, though, when you think about a plant for your garden. And 2 years ago we moved, and I took on a new garden that was, well, it's called a garden, but it was basically a desert. It was an appalling garden. It was probably the worst garden I'd ever inherited. I hope the people who used to live there are not watching, and if they are, I'm really sorry, Peter and Eileen, but your garden was a desert. It was just basically gravel. And it was low maintenance, but it was gravel. And it wasn't even gravel with things planted in the gravel. It was just gravel with more gravel. It was blimmin' awful. It was awful. So we went in there, we scraped all of the gravel away, and we reused it, and we used that to top off some local sort of roadway and driveways that had the same gravel. And then we basically set about creating a lawn and some borders and a beautiful circular thing. Now, this is the time when you can really do that in your garden. You can think about, pick an area. I'm not suggesting you would do a complete garden JCB job. I'm saying pick a nice little corner and think about, do you want to create a Mediterranean themed area? Probably somewhere where you're likely to be sitting out over the next month or two, because we've had a shocking spring from a weather perspective. Early summer, equally shocking. I think we're bound to get some good weather. The law of averages says that's likely. We may even get an Indian summer, who knows? But if you do, this is the way you want to really enjoy it the best in your garden, is with some Mediterranean plants that bring colour and fragrance.
Yeah, it really is. It's been very popular for us, but Peter, shut your ears for this little bit, will you please? Because we've actually got a half-price deal on the oleander right now. So if you want to go for one of these, amazing deal, half price, £14.99. But if you want to go for two...
I'm going to tell Peter King, the finance bloke, about this. This has got to stop.
Shh. But if you want an even better deal, go for two of these. We have a double-up deal where you can get these for £19.99, which breaks down to £10 each. Put two in your basket when it's a double-up deal. Enter the code YGTV2524, and that's how you access those savings, as well as getting your free gift, the Ultimate Rose Bloom Booster, and the extra special, extra free gift, which is your lucky dip bag of bulbs. And of course, if you get your order to over £40,
I'm going to have to tell the children about this. I'm going to have to tell the children.
Tell them. Shush. Right, in the chat, by the way, Grimmy was saying, thank you very much for that advice, great advice. By sheer fluke, I've planted the Miner's Merlot directly next to the grapevine, so well done.
What a genius. It's as if God intended it, but that's the point. And one of the things, you know, I'm not an organic gardener, okay? I'm not a chemical-free gardener, and I will occasionally use pesticides, okay? I use them with care. I mix up small batches. I've got a very small sprayer, and if I've got a specific problem, I will occasionally use pesticides. Similar with weeds, I much prefer a hoe. When you get a day like we have today here, okay, we're going to get 23 degrees. It's forecast to be 23 degrees today, okay. Now, with weeds, you have several options. You can get some chemicals, and you can spray chemicals, and you can wait a week. They turn yellow, then they die. They look pretty grim in the meantime. Or you pick a sunny day, and you get your hoe, and you just go and literally hoe away, and you just chop them off, say a centimetre below ground level, and then leave them there. And then around about 5:30 that day, if you do it in the morning and it's been a sunny day, 5:30, 6 o'clock, when you've had your dinner and you're just going to go for a little stretch of the legs, get a bucket and pick those weeds up. And by that point, they've completely dried off. They're completely done, and then they're gone. Chemical free, quick, easy, and basically, apart from purchasing one day a hoe, that's it. Job done. And that's what I do. So, but with pests, if you can find literally natural solutions like your ladybirds eating your aphids, or you let the wasps do the same. And wasps are much maligned, and people think, what on earth were they ever invented for? Eating aphids is one of those things.
Lovely. Elaine was also saying she's got 3 Miner's Merlot full of ladybird. She was also saying how much she loves the oleander, and she's actually sent us a picture of her oleander, so I will bring that up so you can have a little look.
Oh, yeah, lovely.
And she's got them in our black Tuscany pots.
They look lovely and healthy. They look.
Have
you got those growing in the our premium professional
she has
compost?
Indeed.
It looks like
definitely
it.
See.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
is the premium
yeah.
professional compost
Yeah,
right
yeah,
there, isn't
yeah,
it?
yeah. Now,
Yeah,
the only thing I would say that I would do if I was you is I would put something as a mulch over the top of that for the next month or two, just to keep the moisture in. So if you've got a couple of handfuls of bark, or you've got a gravel or a slate that you just like the look of, just put some of that around the plants in those pots, and it will just keep the moisture in, and of course decoratively it will look nice too. The compost looks fine, by the way, but something like bark or a bit of slate or gravel would I think even look nicer, but also be really effective at keeping that water in.
There you go, another top tip from our head gardener. Philip is saying he's got a delivery due today.
Oh.
It's 12 stops away. We love it. We often ask them to let us know when they've got a delivery coming, so we can count down the stops with them. It's very exciting. Yep. So yes, and it says it's just in time for his birthday tomorrow.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Philip, for tomorrow. Dingo apparently has received his order. What's he saying? Awaiting today's delivery of the selection of bedding plants to go into these planters. Cheers, Dingo. Oh, look, he's got the tiered ones. These were on QVC, I believe.
They look lovely, don't they?
So his plants are going to go into those.
They're great. They'd be like the hanging gardens of Babylon. I don't know what plants you've got planned for those, but hopefully there's a few uprights and some trailers.
Yeah, let us know what you've got. Yeah. We'll be able to have a look for you. Right, so thank you so much for all of those. Did
I just hear Stuart say he's been banned from looking in customer services? That's right.
He's not allowed to because of GDPR.
No, that's right, Stuart. You could ask Julie. You could ask Auntie Julie. She'll do it for you.
All right, so oleander bush we have talked about, 680057 is the item number. Remember, it's an amazing price on that one. It is a half-price deal if you want to go for one, or if you want to go for two, we have that double-up deal where you can get them for £10 each, essentially, and you will get your ultimate rose bloom booster included, as well as a second free gift.
I just love that. That's in one of the tunnels.
It is.
But that looks lovely, doesn't it? I'm going to go there. I haven't been there today.
That's one of my favourite tunnels to go
I said earlier on when I first started, I was literally sat in the office talking to Henry, our technical director, and Liam, our head of operations, and we were chatting away about some sort of day-to-day, work-related stuff. We weren't just chit-chatting, it was proper stuff. And then right. Stuart texted me and said, are you coming over anytime soon? Are you coming? And I thought, oh, yeah, I'd forgotten about that.
Oops.
Yeah.
All right, we're bringing you on to Peter. This is in my.
Oops wasn't what I said actually. I used one of my driving words.
The ones we're not allowed to use.
Yeah,
today.
No, can't use that. No.
I've got a list. So in my head, I'm planning my fantasy garden. So if I was to start a garden from scratch, Stu keeps telling me off for this because it is only £8.99 in the club, so it doesn't have to be a fantasy garden.
No.
Affordable. The only reason is my garden is full. So in my head, I'm planning a brand new garden. Top 20 list of plants. This features on it for me. I think it's absolutely stunning. Give us your take on the Hypericum.
Well, Hypericum is a plant that I think probably would have been regarded as a bit of a... Well, I always divide plants up into the thriller, spiller and filler. This would have been a filler. It would have been one of those plants that you say, it's all right, it's okay, it fills a gap. But actually, this particular variety transforms it. And actually, when you look at the picture and you see that flower up close, it is a thing of beauty. But actually, they're a good size. The actual flowers on the plant right in front of us, which is exactly from the stock that we have here, look amazing. But you've got those berries as well. So the flowers form, and all of the pollinating insects love it. Those flowers then turn into those lovely berries, which of course are the seed. That's where the seed of the Hypericum forms in there. So in the winter, guess what that becomes? Bird food. So you're keeping all of the pollinators happy with the flowers now, and you're keeping the birds happy when those seed pods or berries mature later on. But actually, florists simply love this. This is an amazing thing to include in your cut flowers. So if you get a good clump of this, come the autumn or come later in the summer, you can actually start taking one or two stems out. Just thin out. Keep your plant symmetrical. So don't hack one side of your plant off. Take it out so it maintains a nice shape. But they will be one of the longest lasting things that you could have in a vase. And I generally pick things like this where you'll get some stems. Eucalyptus is another good thing. If you thin down your eucalyptus, that will do 3 or 4 or even more weeks, where you might buy a bunch of flowers from the supermarket, which are inexpensive but pretty, and then you supplement it with some stuff like the Hypericum or the eucalyptus from the garden, and you turn it from, let's say a £3 or £4.99 bunch in the supermarket into something that looks really special. Yeah. Because that's what the florists do. They take a few flowers, then they put all of the interesting stuff in with it. That's what this can do. But in your garden, it's going to look magnificent. It really is. And
the thing is, everything that looks good about this plant is happening right now and will continue to happen for several months. I think it's a good transitional plant as well, because it keeps going right the way through into autumn. We actually went and had a little wander on the nursery yesterday, and we stopped at the Hypericum. Hey, Stu and Adam, I hope you're having a lovely time in the potting shed without me. I've just come out onto the nursery floor here because I'm looking, it's a gorgeous day first of all, and I wanted to have a look at the Hypericum, the miracle attraction. For all you regulars watching, you know how much I adore this plant. It's definitely in my top 20 list all time ever of plants that you should have in your garden. And the wonderful thing is that everything good about this plant is happening right now. Look at those flowers, look at those buds, look at the colours that you've got on here. I think it's absolutely beautiful. And the thing is, it looks like this for months on end. It starts in around sort of June time and it just keeps going through the summer and all the way into autumn as well. It's a great transitional plant, taking you through, I know we don't want to think about it, but when all the flowers are starting to fade in summer, this one is still looking absolutely fantastic. And of course, it's super easy as well. It's winter hardy and requires very little attention from you. I just think it's beautiful. I'm definitely going to, in my next garden, get one of these and plant it. I hope you are too.
Nursery anymore, picking my plants up and moving them. I mean, if I've told her once, you know, she picks them up, she doesn't put them back nicely, you leave them alone.
Always get in trouble.
Stop it. I'm going to tell Henry about this.
All right, that's the
It's good. I think it's a good job I've popped in today. You know, the place is going to rack and ruin. She's going around moving my blooming,
we look after it very well.
My Hypericum, she's playing with those. I don't know what she's been doing with my Thalictrum. Yeah,
well,
I'm very worried about that.
Thalictrum next.
Yeah.
This one is a third off, by the way. So it's £9.99. We have taken £5 off the price of this. It's £8.99 if you're in the club, because you get an extra 10% discount by joining our discount club. Over 40,000 members of that club, isn't it?
Yeah, amazing.
Loads of them.
Yeah. And actually, the great thing about the club, and I started the club years ago, and it was really to reward regular customers, because a lot of customers do come back and they'll order, you know, several times a year, and certainly every year. You know, they'll come back year after year. So we introduced the club with multiple benefits. So first of all, pretty much across all plants, in fact, across all plants, not pretty much, all plants, you get 10% discount. So whatever you buy, in addition to any discounts, so whatever the crazy offers they're giving you today, without my knowledge, anyway, you get another 10% off, which I think is outrageous. Anyway, but you get the 10% off as well. But also, when you join, a lot of people will join on a permanent basis, and it only costs £5, okay, per year. But you get £20 worth of vouchers. You get 4 £5 vouchers, which you can use through the year. So you can use one per order. Now, I must tell you a little thing that I shouldn't really say. I shouldn't say this, but if I do, Bex will then tell everybody forever, so I'm thinking about whether I will or won't. No, I will. So it says you can use one per quarter, so one between January and March, one between April and June, and so on. In reality, you can do that if you want. But if you were to place, if you say, well, I never order in the second half of the year, I only ever order in the first 6 months, you can use one voucher per order, regardless of time. So although it says it's per quarter, that's just to try and spread out your use of them, but actually you can. One per order. So you can use one per order.
I didn't know
So if you placed
that.
4 orders in a month, you can get £5 off each time. And that's that's again taken in addition to your discount. So it's a great way, it's a reward, it's a thank you from me for you to do that. But also, even on things like machinery, so if you want a new lawnmower, there's lawnmowers on our website, you get 5% discount off of those. There's things like furniture, you get 5% discount off of that. So the big expensive things like that, you still get 5%, not 10%. So on all plants, it's 10%. On machinery and hard goods, pressure washers, lawnmowers, benches, furniture, there's all sorts of interesting things like that on the website. We have those delivered by our carefully chosen partners, so they go straight from the manufacturer straight to you, but we give you 5% discount on those as well if you're a member of the club. So if you're making a purchase of a lawnmower, say, and it's £200, if you join the club on auto subscribe, auto renewal, it will cost you £5. If your lawnmower is £200, you're going to save 10 straight away, £10. 5% of £200, and you'll still get your vouchers as well, and you can use one of those vouchers on your first order.
Amazing, yeah. And
so £15 is what you'll save.
You literally start saving from the point that you join the club.
The day you join, you don't have to wait. So if you place an order today and you join the club today, having put loads of stuff in your basket, you put the club membership in your basket, you will save immediately, and that's what we want to do. We want to encourage you to do that.
Absolutely. Right, Peter. Next on this table, we have Thalictrum, we have Canners,
Oh.
we've got Hydrangea, we've got Erigeron. What
Well,
would you like to talk
I'm
about
greedy,
next?
so I've got to have two.
Okay, fair enough. Which one do you want
Thalictrum,
first?
because it's closest. I've reached an
Lovely.
age where walking's a problem. You know what I mean? It was my birthday. Whose birthday it is tomorrow? Whose birthday? Philip. Well, it was my birthday last Saturday, June the 15th. I was 55. In fact, I've been living a lie my whole life. My brother, my much older brother, he's 6 years older than me. He told me, and I suffered ridicule as a child, that I was born at the time when Planet of the Apes was on. I was born in 1969. So for those people who can remember Planet of the Apes, when it used to be a series on, so my brother and my two sisters took the mickey out of me for years because I was a monkey because I was born when Planet of the Apes was on. Well, on my 50th birthday, one of my good friends bought me a copy of a newspaper published the day I was born.
Very nice.
And my brother was there, and I said, well, this is my one opportunity now to look at the newspaper and check the TV listings. And who'd have thought in 1969 the Guardian newspaper would in fact have a TV listings in it?
Wow.
But it did. And let me tell you, at 5 p.m, which was when I was born,
Yeah.
I can't remember vividly, but that's what I've been told, Planet of the Apes was not on. In fact, it wasn't on at all that day. So I have, in fact, been wrongly ridiculed all of my life.
Siblings are
anyway,
great,
moving
aren't
on. I don't know what took us there anyway, but happy birthday again, Philip.
Happy birthday, Philip. Yes.
Thalictrum is my Thalictrum this early spring into summer has been flowering superbly. It is a beautiful, beautiful plant. It's one of those herbaceous perennials that's totally winter hardy, that just erupts around about, I'm going to say sort of late April. And it flowered all the way through May. It's still flowering now, still looking great now. And it will go on till the end of the month. So this is an absolute beauty, and it grows. This one is a slightly more compact one. I've got a slightly taller one that grows to probably about 1 metre tall. But they are just beautiful things, absolutely gorgeous. The pollinators flock to it, the colour impact is amazing, and it fits a lot of plants of this sort of colour. So at the moment I've got things like allium. I've had the lilac palabin flowering in the garden. That's just literally, it's just finished its first flowering. The Thalictrum that I've got is there. So I have lots of things that are in that sort of purple, blue, cool palette in my garden, and I absolutely love it. This fits in perfectly, and this is just by a water feature that I've got. That when I redid my garden, I put this. It was actually a vintage French cheese bowl.
Wow. Okay.
So a big copper cheese bowl that's now got a pump and a water feature in it. It's beautiful, and it creates a lovely humid atmosphere. Things like the Thalictrum, just absolutely love that. So I would say that is, based upon what it's done in my garden this year, that is an absolute must-have.
It's definitely one I should add into my garden, because purples and blues are some of my favourites. Alliums,
Yeah.
and bowls mauve, and the Verbena bonariensis.
Oh.
I absolutely adore that colour scheme.
Well, my Verbena bonariensis is now, I've got 2 or 3 of those planted at different places. They're now about probably, I'm going to say 18 inches tall. No flowers yet because it's quite early. They're a later flowerer.
Yeah.
And again, that's the great thing. So these plants, it's a bit like a relay race. Gardening is a bit, for the insect world, it's a bit like a relay race. So somebody has to run the first 200 metres, and so it goes on. And the Thalictrum has been producing pollen and nectar, and all of the pollinators have been loving that now. In around about 4 or 5 weeks' time, the Verbena bonariensis takes over. And then you'll get things like Rudbeckia and Echinacea coming later again. The dahlias that tend to flower from August and September into October. And it is literally like a relay race. So the secret of good gardening is to make sure you've always got, it's like a firework display. You don't want them going off all at the same time. You want a sure and steady display that just keeps popping as the year goes on.
Yeah, we often talk about that. It's the 365 days of colour, isn't it?
Yeah,
Making sure something is taking over from something that's just starting to fade. This one is the Thalictrum Little Pinky. It is in our head gardener's garden. I think that gives you an excellent recommendation for this particular plant, and we have a double up deal available on this one. So you can get one for £9.99, that's absolutely fine. But if you want to double up, put 2 in your basket, the second one will only be £5 more. Plus you're going to get those 2 free gifts. Remember, you've got your rose bloom booster, which can be used on absolutely everything that flowers in your garden, plus that mystery bag of bulbs included as well. 2 free gifts this week. 561161 is the item number. Go to YouGarden.com to place your orders, or if you like to actually talk to real people, you can phone us as well, 0844 502 0050. I think Peter is pointing to the next thing he wants to talk about.
One of my absolutely favourite plants of all types of plants is hydrangea. I love hydrangeas. I love Incredible, the big one. I love the paniculata types. We've had Magical Candle and Magical Matterhorn. They're the sort of paniculata types, the ones that have got a slightly elongated flower. But Euphoria Pink is just beautiful because it's like a colour changer. You can't necessarily, you can just about see it, I think, here. On the foliage here, you've got this almost creamy white and green, and you've got that pink tinge. So the young growth has a pink tinge to it. So it's tri-coloured almost in terms of the different. Look at that. That's just so amazing, pretty, isn't it? Sorry about the slightly brown leaf there. I'm going to remove that. Can't have that. I blame Bex. See, that's why, there Bex, you're not allowed on my nursery, because you go touching my plants and you create little brown edges. So here we've got the beautiful tri-coloured tips, and of course all of the new growth as that comes up is fabulous. But the combination of this pink flower with that coloured foliage and the tri-coloured foliage when the young tips are there, I just think that is magical. That literally is something special. And hydrangeas are, one of those plants where less is definitely more. And there's a hotel I went to a couple of years ago. We were travelling and it was a planned overnight stop because we were doing a long journey. And it was one of the simplest examples of planting you could ever wish. They had a low buxus hedge. It was buxus, but it could have been anything. It could have been Santolina, it could have been lavender, it could have been anything. It was just a solid wall of a hedge. Only grew to about 18 inches tall. And then the other side of that was a border that was probably about 3 foot deep, and it was just mass planted with hydrangeas. 2 plants. So there were hydrangeas, those were cream flowered, and then it had buxus. But you could imagine this. You could imagine a buxus hedge, and you could imagine that planted behind it, forming just a solid wall of variegation and beautiful pink flowers, and it would look amazing. And literally from this point all the way through now, the rest of the summer, hydrangeas just look amazing. They just, they reflower, they look fantastic, they're totally winter hardy. And the pruning's so easy, because all you do in about February is trim all of the old. I always say pruning's dead easy, so if it's dead, it's dying, it's crossing, if you've got any rub marks, trim it out and thin out that kind of wood. But otherwise with hydrangeas, just trim them back by around about 1/3 each year for the first 5 years. Then you've formed a lovely woody stem structure. And then after that, all you're doing is pretty much taking them back by 1/3 and then trimming out any big old wood to keep the thing rejuvenated. Yeah, they're quite simple, aren't they? And of course, this one has an amazing accolade. It was runner-up at the RHS Chelsea show just last year. So silver medal, 2nd place. Yeah. That's pretty darn decent, and that is some. If you think about plants that have won the Chelsea Flower Show Plant of the Year over time, Geranium Roseanne, 2019. I have got that planted en masse in my garden. It is one of the just best plants. It forms great big mounds of gorgeous foliage that have got that lovely geranium serration with those beautiful disc-shaped blue flowers. Mine's looking amazing right now, but that's an example. Agapanthus blackjack last year. Again, just, oh my goodness, just beautiful. The intensity. It's expensive and it's not that commonly available yet, sadly, but it will become. And when you do, if you want the darkest agapanthus that's around, blackjack is it. Well, when you mentioned that, actually, because it was blackjack that won last year and hydrangea serrata that came in 2nd place. So those two were in the same year. We do have some agapanthus on the show, by the way. If you want to have a look in our show plan, it's called The Fireworks. It's absolutely beautiful. But this one is the hydrangea serrata. It's the Euphoria Pink, saving £3 on here, so it's £11.99.
excuse me, or £10.79 if you're in the club, because remember, you do get that extra 10% discount when you shop with us, when you're part of our discount club. Right, we're coming back. We're going to take a little perch, Peter, and we're going to have a little look. So we're going to have a little look at what people have sent in.
Oh, hello.
So, Kathy,
no difficult questions, and only questions about gardening.
Only questions from you. Ah, yes. Kathy just wanted to show us her garden, basically, and what she's been growing. Some absolutely...
verbena.
Beautiful verbena. I love this type of verbena, when you get that, like, lighter edge and then the darker centre. They're really pretty, aren't they?
They are one of the best additions. Any container, whether it's a pot, a tub, hanging basket, they are absolutely beautiful. And prolifically reflowering plants as well. So from now onwards, they just keep going. So I do always think, you know, this is a good example where I mentioned at the beginning of this show about, you know, what are the right things to do at the moment. Feeding. Anything in a container requires feeding, probably at least minimally once a fortnight, ideally each week. And what I would say is if you've got a watering can that you're using to water your hanging baskets, your pots, your tubs, your troughs, just put some Blooming Fast, we sell Blooming Fast soluble fertiliser, 1 level teaspoon of that into a 5 litre watering can. Okay, which people say, is that enough? Is that enough? It really is enough. 1 gram per litre on a ongoing basis is exactly what you need to do. And so if you buy the 750 gram pouch of our Blooming Fast fertiliser, that will make 750 litres. 1 watering can is 5 litres typically. So it proves that you know, but don't overfeed. That's one of the big mistakes many of us make, myself included sometimes, is overfeeding. Little and often is the answer. So 1 level teaspoon of soluble fertiliser into a 5 litre watering can gives you gives your plants exactly what they need.
Amazing.
And high potash gives you more flowers, and that's why. Sorry, my earpiece is popping out. I've not got a dodgy ear. I'm just pushing this thing that's in my ear back in. I normally have a bit of sellotape or something to hold the little bit there, but because I literally walked in, put my microphone on and started, I didn't have time to do the whole tape thing today.
All right, Elaine actually sent us a message on...
she's moving on. She's ignoring me now.
On YouTube,
it's like being at home,
saying how she loves the Blooming Fast. We all do, don't we? Those of us who are shopping regularly at YGTV. And she also says that she enjoys the club. Coming back to Kathy's pictures, though, because this is one of the ones that I fell in love with. This is the Gora. This is the Siskiyou pink, isn't it?
Yeah. Gora is a gorgeous thing.
We love this
amazing summer flower, repeat flowers. The pollinators love this.
Yeah.
This is a real plantsman's plant that anybody can grow. So sometimes when we talk about certain plants, and you know, it's a plantsman, it's a connoisseur's plant, this is something a bit special. We often think it must therefore be quite hard to grow, and this is absolutely so easy to grow, ridiculously easy to grow. So you get it planted. Although the stems of flowers project up to around about 15-18 inches, it does have quite a rosette of foliage low down. So do be putting it somewhere towards the front of a border. So if you've got very low growing things, so for example, if you've got something like thyme, variegated thyme, I put things like that at the front of my borders because they just look pretty. And if you do need any herb, you can just get them right from the front. So I might put a bit of thyme here and a bit of thyme there, and then plant something like the Gora into the border. So here's the path where I am here, into the border, but just in between there. So it just fills in that gap. So it's sort of almost like not quite the middle of the border, but it's just slightly back from the front to allow that height to really take its effect.
Yeah, I love them. I've absolutely fell in love with those when we brought them a little while ago. I just think it's quite a captivating plant. More pictures from Kathy. We've got some lovely, in fact, I think that is the geranium roseanne right there.
That is geranium. I would almost guarantee that's geranium roseanne.
That's a scabious.
Scabious, exactly. There. Yeah, beautiful. And it looks like a bit of salvia in the bottom. So look at that colour palette, though. Look at the beautiful, cool, beautiful, healthy foliage. Fabulous colour palette. Nice planting, nice gardening there. Yeah. Really nice.
Clever gardening. We've got another picture from Kathy. No, I think we've got one more picture from Kathy. Bear with. Hot lips.
Oh,
Hot lips.
An absolute favourite.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I made a big mistake. I was on holiday a few weeks ago, and where I was, they had different varieties. They had all of the 3 colours that we sell, all growing in a beautiful border. And I kept saying to myself, every time I walk by, I must bring my phone next time when I'm walking by here. I must take my phone so I can take a picture, maybe a little bit of video. That'll make Stuart really happy because he doesn't get out very much. And seeing that kind of video makes him very happy. I could have done that, but I didn't. Now, well, there's good news and bad news. The good news is that it means now I need to book a business trip to go back to that holiday resort to take the video, because I know the salvia looks great. But it did. But the 3 colours that we have, we've got hot lips, and then we've got 2 others that are complementary, a cherry one and an amethyst one, and they look fabulous when you plant them en masse together. But they really did look absolutely amazing there.
Good. Right, Dingo is saying, hi Bex, I have the Nurseryman's Collection ×2 coming today. And waiting on 30 Antirrhinum mini butterflies. We brought those in the last couple of weeks. Oh, and 3 different aces. Already got delivery of another 2, plus Japanese mock orange coming as well.
You've got a busy week ahead of you then now, because there's a lot of planting to be doing.
So Dingo is, again, another regular who watches us all the time, and he has a turtle sanctuary.
Oh.
He's down in Dorset, isn't it? I'm sure it's somewhere down south. But yeah, he's got this lovely turtle sanctuary. He sent us pictures of it. It's beautiful.
When I went on honeymoon, my wife and I, it was our 25th wedding anniversary last year, but when we went on honeymoon, we went to Mexico. I don't think I'd go to Mexico now, from what I keep hearing about all of the bad things that happened there. We must have been much braver then. It was a long time ago. But we went to a turtle sanctuary in Mexico.
Oh, wow.
It was amazing. Little tiny babies. And it was one of these things, when we've been on holiday down to Cornwall, in Padstow, they've got there is a link here, by the way. Okay. They've got a lobster hatchery where they take, when the fishermen locally catch females that have got loads of eggs, they bring them back to the lobster hatchery. They then see that the eggs get fully allowed to develop through to little tiny lobsters, and then they release them. That's exactly what the turtle sanctuary did over in Mexico, where they actually would get females and the eggs, and they would hatch them and then release the young later.
Oh,
so
nice.
yeah, amazing.
Elaine says, thank you, Peter, for the club. It is fantastic. You're welcome, Elaine, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Right, come on over with me, Peter, because we're going to talk about another one of my favourites.
Which way? Where are we going?
We're going over here.
Oh, okay.
I'm bringing you over to the Fatsia japonica, the castor oil
Don't call
plant.
me names. I've been on a diet.
I've been working out.
Yeah. No, I've not been working out.
Just not using
not recently. Not recently.
No, I love this one because it's lush, it's tropical. You get massive, great big leaves on here, and also the reason I love this is that it works in clay soil, and I've got clay soil. Yeah,
and this is a beautiful plant, and it's hardy. Because when people look at Fatsia, they often say, well, that's lovely, isn't it? That's
it's a great
lovely
houseplant.
thing from a conservatory. Lovely thing from a conservatory. Not at all. This is winter hardy. So I've actually got a sizable one of these in a court. So there's a sort of little passageway down by the side of my house. And I didn't plant it, actually. The people before, I think, did. And we've got some hydrangea petiolaris, which is the climbing hydrangea, which is great because that will flower on a north-facing wall with very low light levels. And this is in the corner just along from that. So again, and it's growing and thriving beautifully in a very, very low light level area, but also totally winter hardy. And it just looks great. It looks, when you walk up that part of the, up that little passageway, it looks a bit jungly. It looks a bit tropical. So it does add a very different look to your garden. And the leaves are almost fig-like, aren't they? They're sort of, you could mistake it. I think some people do mistake it for being a fig, but it's beautiful. I love it. And the fact that it's got such a shine to it, and it just exudes health.
It does.
It looks amazing. And is that really right? $14.99.
Yeah. Yeah, we're taking a £5 off that. 25% off that, so it's $14.99, but 10% comes off that as well if you're in the club. So it's £13.49 for a really well-established plant to go out in your garden. Now, I love the foliage on here, but actually something on a slightly more mature plant, something interesting happens later on in the year as well with the flowers, doesn't it?
Absolutely. So they're sort of greenish white flowers. They look amazing. I mean, I actually. I wouldn't care if it never flowered.
No, me too.
The fact that it does flower is an absolute bonus, but if it never did, it wouldn't bother me. But it just looks fabulous. Yeah, they're almost like, what's that like? That's like, it does. It reminds me of something, but.
It reminds me a bit of the paper bush flower. I don't know why. It's got something about it.
Yeah. Lovely.
It is lovely, and pollinators actually really enjoy those flowers, and because this flower's a little bit later, any of those later pollinators are out, they can actually take advantage of that.
Yeah, I mean, look, you can see actually, can't you, how much pollen and nectar there is crammed into those beautiful spheres. It's like it's sort of, up close, they look a bit like a miniature allium, don't they?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So all my allium flowers have gone over, and I've left them, and they have created those lovely, that lovely interest with them.
My alliums are looking lovely right now.
Are they?
The
Mine have gone
bees,
over.
in fact, I can't show you because it's on my phone, but I've got a beautiful. There was this bee, and he was just sat on this allium. I was sat in the garden, just relaxing as you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, when you get to my age, you need to sit down a bit. So I sat down, having a little relax in the garden, and this allium was right there in my eye line, and this bee was just having the time, all on his own, actually. He obviously didn't have many friends, but he was just on this allium on his own. And he was just there for about 20 minutes, going from the little, because they're made up of loads and loads and loads of little florets. And he was obviously just going from flower to flower to flower to flower. And then in the end, just stopped still. And I think he'd got absolutely boozed up on the nectar. Couldn't do anything. Had completely sort of consumed so much. Exactly. It was off his head. I mean, I was going to ring David Attenborough and ask what to do at one point, but I'm sure he was gone the next day.
So
he probably got in trouble for going home late. But anyway, there we are.
Well, yes, you can invite those late pollinators into the garden, give them that little bit of nectar source that they're probably really needing in sort of October and November when this does start flowering. Totally winter hardy, super easy to grow, lush and tropical vibe that you will get from this. 510248 is the item number if you'd like to go for the Fatsia. Remember, it's a £5 saving, 25% discount, and if you are in the club, an extra 10% will be taken off that. Use the code though, please, YGTV2524. That's how you get the discount. That's how you get your free gift. It's not just one free gift. This is the ultimate rose bloom booster. You don't need to have roses. You can use it on everything. If you've got roses, then great. But you're also going to get a mystery pack, lucky dip of bulbs that will be sent to you as well. So it's 2 free gifts with this week's orders. 1 per order as well, not 1 per customer.
Yep.
Right, we're coming over to everybody's favourite, the thing that we sell the absolute most of here at YouGarden and have done for many, many years. Highest number of reviews. People constantly come in and rate this 5-star and tell us how wonderful this is. Olwyn, I always come back to Olwyn's comment, and she calls it her gold star or her gold medal product.
Yeah.
Who is it? Is it Graham? Who stacks them up? Yeah, Graham sent us pictures. He's got a picture he sent us earlier on in the year in his garage. We counted 26 bags.
He's a premium professional compost dealer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Graham's garden is amazing. Anyway, we know how amazing this is, but Peter, you tell us, why do you think this compost is amazing?
Well, so for years, we have perfected the compost we use on the nursery. I mean, I've literally been in. I started my life in the horticultural industry when I was 15. Or just about 15, 14 and a bit. And I went to horticultural college. I lived and worked on my family nursery, so I've grown things for a living. Now I run this company, and we actually have a separate nursery to this nursery where we produce hundreds of thousands of plants a year. And that would be roses, it would be fruit trees, it would be perennial plants, lavender, you name it. We're growing those sorts of things in big volumes. This year alone, we'll grow somewhere close to 200,000 potted roses ourselves. And the compost we use is this. And the reason that we would use this compost is because, in our experience, it's the best. It gives the best results. It gives consistent results. And it does that because the makeup of the product. So you've got a peat, including peat, compost here. So 50% by volume of what's in my hand is peat. And you'd look at it and say, well, that looks just like all of it is. But it really isn't. 50% is, but the rest isn't. Of the peat that's in there, you've got a blend of sphagnum moss peat and sedge peat. So the sphagnum moss peat is light and airy and has lots of tubes within it. So sphagnum has got little tubes going down the middle of the strands, and that gives an air-water porosity ratio that plants find perfect. Because plants don't just need water, they need air and water, and for that to be in the right proportions. The sedge peat actually does the opposite. The sedge peat retains moisture, so it actually is a bit heavier, a bit claggier, so it will hold moisture. Then you've got the wood fibre in it. Now you can see the strands of wood fibre, they're very short. And in fact, you can see the slow release fertiliser popping out. Oh, there we are, look, she's got it. There we are, Bex has got it. Loads of, now we put that in because it feeds the plants from the moment you plant them in there. And we make our compost fresh. So the reason we make it fresh, so when you get it, the nutrients that are in it have not yet started to deploy. So you can actually expect to get anywhere between 3 and 6 months of nutrients gradually drip feeding from that slow release fertiliser into the compost and feeding your plants via the roots. Anyway, the wood fibre provides a lovely, airy, open structure. And what you'll also notice is that and we saw it earlier on the 2 oleander that were planted. I don't know if you can pull that picture up again, Stuart, if you have it, I don't know. But what you'll notice, the pair of oleanders in the lovely black pots, what you'll notice with that kind of thing is the wood fibre does almost, or some of the wood fibre will form a crust over the surface of the compost when it's used in pots. And that's just because wood floats. So if in a moist environment, it will just drift upwards a little bit. And that of itself is quite good because it forms a little crust. There we are. So there we are. Now, if you look closely, you'll see it's already beginning. Now, they've only recently been potted relatively, but you can already start to see there's a discernible light colour to the surface of that. And it isn't because the compost is necessarily dry underneath, it's because the wood fibre's just forming that crust, which has 2 useful attributes. One is even if you don't put a mulch on, I said earlier, pop some mulch on there. If you don't, it will form a little crust, so it will keep some moisture in. But it also ensures that the airflow is really good as well. So all of these things are considered carefully by us from a professional perspective, and we know that this gives great results. Now, we are trialling and testing other composts alongside this on a regular basis, and I can absolutely assure you that this year again, this spring again, we've done multiple trials. This compost is the winner. It's the winner for roses, it's the winner for fruit trees, it's the winner for lavender, it's the winner for, all of the perennials we grow, from thousands and thousands of hydrangeas that we grow each year. Magical Matterhorn, if you bought that potted, or Magical Candle, if you bought that potted, that was grown on our nursery and is in this compost. So our confidence is high. You can use this product with confidence, and I can tell you it's the only compost I use at home. It really is. Yeah, it's the only compost that I use as well. It is 100125. Comes to you in 2 50-litre bags. It also comes in a box, so if you are multi-ordering, you can stack and store very easily. It's a great way of getting hold of multiples of your free gift as well. Again, close your ears, Peter. If you need, let's say, 200 litres of your compost, just do 2 separate orders. You'll get 2 free gifts, plus 2 bags of bulbs included as well, as long as you use the code YGTV2524. That will put those free gifts into the basket for you. Apparently we have a new picture from Elaine, and it is beautiful. So let's have a look. Oh my word, it is beautiful. I love Alstroemeria. I was lucky enough years ago to meet a guy called Peter Smith. Peter J. Smith, Alstroemerias. He was probably the UK's leading light when it came to Alstroemeria, and he was, just the biggest advocate of the product. And he once, I said, why do you love Alstroemeria so much? And he said to me, well, there are very few plants that do what they do. So he said they're virtually resistant to pests and diseases of any type. So they are such a great garden plant to grow for consistency and ease. They flower over such a long time. They look great in the garden, and in the vase, they will last for 3 weeks. So when you cut an Alstroemeria stem, they will literally be, because you've got obviously bud and open flower typically, they will last for 3 weeks or so in the vase.
That pot is from us as well.
Oh yeah, I love that
Notice
actually.
that beautiful blue
That's
pot.
that's an. I can't remember the name of that
No, I
particular
can't
pot, but
remember,
it
but
looks like it's
sorry.
ceramic. What are you
There we go.
doing, Bex?
I'm not very good at the technical, but I do try.
Yeah, take take this iPad thing off her. You know, she's overreaching, Stuart.
I'm trying. Right, we have some more questions coming in. A question from Anne for the man in charge.
Ooh.
She had some of our bare root strawberries earlier this year. She planted them up, and I've got all leaves, and all I've got are leaves with no flowers. So that means no fruit, doesn't it?
Does
but
so
they are
far.
Sending out runners.
Yep.
Any ideas? Any
Well,
advice?
I would say high potash food, definitely. It depends what variety it was as to when it would fruit. So sweet summer tends to be a little bit later, but if it were, for example, Cambridge favourite, that's a June bearer, so that you would expect that to be flowering and fruiting now. But that would depend upon when it was planted. So strawberries are funny. So you end up with what are called 60-day runners, and commercially that was a special type of strawberry, or a technique rather than a type of strawberry, a technique that was developed by the soft fruit trade, where they would get runners of various varieties and they would put them into cold store, even potentially below freezing, so it would be like deep midwinter. The runners would sit there not even realising it was time to grow, and then when they would want them to fruit, they would plant them, and then 60 days later from planting they would start to fruit. Okay, hence the term 60-day runners. So you would plant them, 60 days later you should start to see the first fruits. Now if you've planted them relatively recently, received them and planted them relatively recently, it's not inconceivable they were in the cold store. So within 60 days, you should start to see flowers and fruits coming. If you don't, then get back in touch with us and we'll see what we can do. But without knowing what variety is, it's quite tricky for me to know.
Fabulous. Follow-up question from Anne is, could we run an open day for some of, I don't know, the best, I don't know how we did determine that, but the best customers?
How would
for
we
YGTV?
determine the best?
Well, exactly.
That's what I'd like to know. I mean, I don't know, but yes, we will. And in fact, we were talking about this. We were most dedicated. Okay. No, well, you're in. We do
have some amazing regular viewers.
We would love to do
time.
that. The thing to bear in mind. Okay, there's several things to bear in mind. First of all, it would need to be on a weekend, because we have too many things happening during the week. So Monday to Friday, we've got articulated lorries, we've got forklift trucks, we've got tractors and trailers and all sorts of things zipping around the nursery. So it's not a very safe environment Monday to Friday. But on a weekend, on a Saturday, for example, we would love to do that. And I will talk to Sean and Bex and Stuart, and we'll get that organised.
Yeah, that would be amazing, wouldn't it? And I'd love to actually meet some of you in person. We talk a lot via the YGTV shows, and I know you send us lots of messages, but it would be lovely to meet some of them.
It would indeed.
Person.
And in fact, what we'll try and do is get that organised before the end of this summer. The thing to bear in mind is, so where are we in the country? So we're a little bit north of Peterborough, and we're a little bit south of Spalding. So if you look at where that is in the country and you think about the logistics, if you're in Inverness, it's quite a challenge. If you're in Coventry, it's not so bad.
Yeah.
If you're in Wisbech, it's dead handy. So it depends where you are in the country, but do bear that in mind. So we're in Gedney Hill, and obviously depending on where you're coming from, it would be. Yeah, Philip in Edinburgh.
Yeah, I think
although Edinburgh,
is it Kathy who's up in Edinburgh as well.
3.5 hours to Peterborough on the train.
It's not too bad. Peterborough is a great place to stop.
Yeah.
Sean will come and pick you up at the station, is what Stu's saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not? We can sort that out, can't we?
Get Sean in his Fiat 500. Yeah. Well, he'll have to make one. He'll have to make one or two trips. But yeah.
All right, so I've got Stephen has got a question for you. He's got an apple tree, but it's got white mildew on it. Do you take the leaves off?
Okay, powdery mildew, I think, is what that probably is. And you can get specific fruit tree fungicides for that, fungicide treatments. So that's an option. Generally speaking, to think about... this is counterintuitive, okay, because most people think when you get things to do with fungal and spore-based issues, people automatically assume it's down to the environment being over wet, too wet. Actually, powdery mildew generally is a stress reaction to plants being dry. So what I would do first of all is I'd say check, is it in a pot, is it planted in the soil? If it's in a pot, I bet you it's dry, or it has been dry. If it's in the soil, even though it's been raining a lot, and it's one of the big mistakes we all make, myself included. I've got a big pot full of herbs, and I looked at it the other day and I thought it looked really wilty and didn't look well at all. And I thought, blimey, it can't be dry because it's just never stopped raining since last October. Then I did the old Adam's finger job, rammed my finger in the compost. It was like dust. Now, why was that? And it was because it's close to the side of a building, so it's not really getting much rain because the building's giving a sort of bit of protection. So even a tree or shrub or plant in the soil, if the environment it's in affords it protection from the prevailing rain, or the prevailing wind will carry the rain, it can still be dry. So powdery mildew often, and you'll see it on sweet peas, particularly from now onwards, it's a reaction to dry and stress relation to dry. So try watering it. Get yourself a fungal treatment from from your local garden centre. I'm not sure if we've got one online. I should do, but I don't. Sorry.
I'm glad you said that, because I've grown the sweet peas, you know, the seeds that we did, the super scented sweet peas, which are looking amazing, getting loads of flowers. But yeah, down the bottom, the leaves are just going a little bit brown and a bit crispy.
Well, no, brown and crispy is not. Brown and crispy is different.
Is it?
Yeah, that's not powdery mildew, not necessarily.
I've just underwatered.
It could be that, or it just could be that you've watered. Brown and crispy often can be you've watered and then the sunlight's got on it, and then the beads of water act like almost little magnifying glasses, and they will burn the foliage. So when you water now, at this time of year, particularly where we're getting highlight levels and sunshine like we're going to, because summer's here. I mean, come on guys, summer is now here. It is now summer. So this is the time of year where when you do water either early evening when the sun's going down a bit. And actually, somebody said you're mad, you are, when I said this, but it's true, I promise you. Plants do most of their growing at night. They do. When you're tucked up with your pyjamas on and you're having a little sleep, your body's relaxing and it's recovering and it's repairing itself. It's what your body does. Most of us don't think about this, but it is true, I promise you. So generally speaking, if you've got an ache and pain, you go to bed, you wake up the following morning, oh, it feels better. Feels a bit better, doesn't it? And that's because your body's repaired itself a bit, because it's doing things whilst you're asleep. When plants go do the equivalent of that. I know they don't have continental duvets. Well, unless you've got fleece, put fleece over them, and they do. But your plants over the evening, that's when they don't have to be stressed about consuming water to stay alive, because when it's hot and dry, plants during the day are under so much pressure, the transpiration, so the movement of water from the roots up through the stems and out through the leaves, that's called transpiration. The plant's under stress to stay alive and keep itself fully hydrated. So it's not doing anything other than doing that pretty much during the day. So in the evening, when it's not as warm, when it's not as bright, where it isn't struggling to keep itself hydrated, that's when it does its growing. So if you're watering your plants, first thing in the morning helps them overcome any issues during the hot, dry days. But early evening is perfect, because that's when they really do need to stock up on water and nutrients to do their growing. And if you notice, plants will always look healthiest first thing in the morning. So get up about 5:30 tomorrow and go and look at your plants. That's my recommendation.
It's also good to water in the evening as well, because obviously the moisture stays in the ground.
Early evening's great. Early evening, if you only have one opportunity to water, do it in the early evening.
Definitely.
If you've got if you've got containers, particularly smaller containers, at this time of year, you might have to be twice a day if it's really hot and they're in a sunny spot. First thing in the morning, and then in the early evening. But most importantly, don't do it when you've got bright sun, or if you've got a plant that's really struggling and you have to water it rather during the sunniest part of the day. Absolutely soak it, and soak everything around it. So if you've got a plant up against a wall and it's got a path in front of it and it's in a little border, water the plant that's really struggling, but make sure you saturate the wall and you saturate the plant, because you create a little microclimate then of high humidity, so the plant won't necessarily scorch because it's got this extra humidity in the air, and it will, and all of that will just gradually dry, as will the water on the plants.
Excellent tips there from our head gardener. Thank you so much. So 530185 is what we're going to move on to next. This is a beautiful climbing rose. This is called New Dawn. So I want to talk about this variety, but we do want to talk about with you the relationships that we have with our rose growers.
Yeah. Well, we work really, really closely with Harkness Roses. And Harkness Roses is, when you think about the rose, for those of you that love roses, that know a little bit about the rose world, shall we say, you've got companies like David Austin, you've got Peter Beale's Roses, and you've got Harkness Roses. There are others, but let's just stick with those three. Harkness is the oldest family-owned company of rose breeders and growers in the UK. It's the longest existing company that still trades in the UK today. And Philip Harkness, who I know personally, is still active in the business. Philip is the person. He is in charge of the breeding program. He is literally, he's making roses do naughty things with each other. He's taking pollen here, and he's honestly, it's absolute filth. But he's breeding. Joking aside, he's breeding the best varieties of roses, in my opinion, that I have in my garden. And he's a lovely man. But literally a couple of weeks ago at Chelsea Flower Show, we launched the new variety called the Chelsea Pensioner. And it was, as you can imagine, if you've ever seen a Chelsea Pensioner in their uniform, which is just rich red, and that's exactly the colour of this particular rose, and it's an absolute belter. It's a big hybrid tea, beautiful fragrance, I mean literally beautiful fragrance, and the foliage is super healthy. And what Philip did here is he specifically bred this high quality, there we are, look at that. I mean, the guy, not the lady holding the bouquet, is one of the Chelsea pensioners, but Patrick, the chap who's with her, is the guy. He was the instigator of this whole thing. And they live at Chelsea Hospital, which is an absolute institution. So to be able to live at Chelsea Hospital, you have to be ex-forces, and you know, generally speaking, they're pretty much all single people. So they live in quarters there, and it's just a lovely environment. I've been fortunate enough to have a tour there behind the scenes, and it is just great. But the environment, the hospital, the grounds, and so on, and of course when Chelsea Flower Show is there, it's just something to behold. But they were so honoured to have a rose named after them, and there's a contribution for every one we sell that goes to their charity. So it's a great thing. It's a lovely variety. It's probably I've just planted one in my garden. I don't have any red roses in my garden, but this is the one, I think. I'm so pleased I've been able to plant it. So it's a lovely garden variety, beautiful fragrance, so good, and the Chelsea Pensioner is, as I say, doing some great work as well for the charity. I know that's not New Dawn, no, but I just ranted on about it anyway.
It's fine. But it takes years, doesn't it, for them to actually test these varieties? It takes about 7, 8 or 9 years or something or other to get
longer.
It to the stage where it can come out.
Or longer. The quickest, generally speaking, that you can go from crossing a rose, as in taking the female and the male parts of those two parents, and you cross them to create the seed that you then sow, that then you create seedlings from, then you grow them on and you evaluate them. The first year, so each year, we generally are looking at 40,000 seedlings. And that will drop very rapidly down to about 1,000 by the third year. It will then drop down to dozens by the 5th year. And of course, ultimately, from a cross, or from crosses that would have been made in year 1, by year 7, 8 or 9, you might end up with 5 that are truly special, truly different enough, with characteristics that are noteworthy enough to actually go forward to ultimate marketing and you know, taking to the British public. So it is a perilously difficult art, and I say art because it literally is an art, because what Philip is doing is deciding, I've got the characteristics here, and here of these two parents, I'm going to cross those. I'm then going to wait for that rose hip, the little bud or the little seeds that form in the rose hip. Then I've got to get those sown. Then I've got to flower it through. It's a long-term game, and the probability of success is low. But Philip and his predecessors in his family have been incredibly successful, and some of the very best genetics, New Dawn being an example of that, are Harkness, and you know, the Chelsea Pensioner, notable variety, New Dawn, fantastic variety. I mean, there are some absolutely incredible varieties.
Yeah, and a lot of those characteristics are about their disease tolerance, their resistance to, you know, rust and black spot and you know, all of the things that roses can suffer from. So it's only ever the best, the most disease resistant that actually make it to market. The rose is the New Dawn that we're talking about here. It's actually a climbing rose. Do you have climbing roses in your garden? I do. Got some absolutely beautiful ones at the moment on the front of my house.
I inherited them, so I don't even know exactly what varieties they are, because I've only lived there 2 years. That part of the garden wasn't a desert. It had a couple of roses in it. It's got a lovely border down there now. But no, I do love climbing roses. And again, they add such a dimension over such a long time. Because we often say about roses, particularly the single flowered or the smaller flowered roses, tend to flower pretty continually between May and October. With the winters we now get, that extends even into November and December. But certainly they start flowering in May and they will repeat flower onwards. So, you know, it's just a great thing to have in your garden for that purpose alone. The repeat flowering is of itself one of the best characteristics. Yeah, and I think this one is a particularly glorious colour that you've got on here. It's a very sort of soft pink, isn't it? It's quite classy, I think. Yeah, great for, I mean, this is the sort of rose that you could potentially pluck one of those as a lovely, you know, not when it's fully open, but as a lovely buttonhole if you're going to a wedding. And I've done that several times where I've been going to summer weddings and I've literally made my own buttonhole. And it's not because I'm a cheapskate. Some people say I am, but I'm really not. I would never say that. But it's lovely. I mean, it's just a lovely thing to do. But this is super fragrant, so the fragrance is absolutely entrancing, and it's not an overpowering fragrance. It's a lovely, this sounds stupid when I say it, because it obviously is a rose. It's a lovely classic rose fragrance. It really is beautiful. And when you actually get a rose like that, with the number of flowers that will get, it will get 50 flowers open. When on a fully established plant, when it's really looking great on the side of your property, you'll get maybe 50 flowers open in midsummer. Now, if you've got a table or a bench or a seat, any kind of seating area close to that, and you're sat there in the early evening, that's when the fragrance really comes into its own, because the humidity in the air, that as the dew rises, honeysuckle's very similar. It's always best in the evening. So the air just hangs heavy with that beautiful fragrance, and it just wafts down. So that's what I would do. Make sure, get yourself plant it. If you buy this, plant it somewhere close to where you sit, but it loves a sunny spot. So get it on a sunny wall, and it will really reward you with most flowers. Yeah, absolutely. I do think everybody should have a rose in their garden somewhere. I was later coming to the rose world. The first one I planted was Arthur Bell a few years ago. I now have about 9 different roses in my garden. Yet to add a climbing one to the collection, but I might just do it at some point. 530185 is the item number if you would like to go for the rose climbing New Dawn variety from Harkness, disease resistant and absolutely beautiful. It's a £10 saving as well. We've taken a third off the price of that one. Another 10% off that if you are in our club. Just want to say a big thank you to everybody that sent in their messages, sent in their questions. I hope that we've been able to answer all of those for you. So Elaine, Dingo, Kathy, Philip, Neil, thank you so much. Gary, later pollinator. He's coming up with all my catchphrases for me. Rooty Beauty, later pollinator. Bex knows best, which I'm staying away from. No, that's okay. I'm not sure I like that one yet. No, that's a good one. Very complimentary. But yes, thank you so much to everybody on here and on Facebook. We've loved doing the show for today. Do remember that if you get your order to over £40, you will get that free postage. It's all to do with that magic code, the YGTV2524. That unlocks all the savings. That will put your free gift into your basket, which is your Rose Bloom Booster, a bag of that. Plus, you're going to get a mystery bag
bag of bulbs. It's 2 free gifts this week, in actual fact. So big thank you for Peter for coming in, joining us.
It's been a pleasure. Sorry I was late.
That's all right, we don't mind. I'm going to run away now, but I'm on QVC Style later on at 5 o'clock. If you want to come and join me on there, it'd be really nice to have your company. And we'll see you all very soon. Thanks so much for coming and joining us. Bye-bye.